is now time for your favorite Sunday tradition. What else is there than the AEW Collision review on the MrWarrenHayes show? Hello, I'm MrWarrenHayes, and welcome. It is, like I said, Sunday. It is September 24, and we're going to be reviewing the AEW Collision show that happened on September 23rd. We usually do that the next day. We take the time to think about it, sleep on it, so on and so forth. You know, a clear-headed, balanced review. That is what you can always come to expect here. Oh, absolutely. Every single time. I don't get carried away in emotions and, you know, rants and sidebars. That's not me. What? You're trying to tell me that's what I do? Hey, point to the evidence. Also, don't. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, leave a like and a subscription. I would appreciate it a great deal. Otherwise, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify would also be tremendous and will help grow the podcast and so on and so forth. But I'm excited to talk about this episode of Collision. I don't know if it's going to be a terribly long review, and every time I say that. Every time I preempt me sitting down at the microphone to do these podcasts, to do these talk segments, every time I say, oh, this shouldn't take too long, systematically, I tack on 25 extra minutes, for sure. Strap in, folks. The reason why, the reason why is that I didn't know if this is going to be very long because, you know, there's not many things to like break apart and tear apart and deeply analyze. Like there's not all sorts of stuff happening all over the place. This is a collision like we like them. Focused on in-ring action, some very good in-ring action, by the way, that just led to a tremendous edition of Collision from top to bottom. There is one snafu. There's one fly in the ointment here. I'm sure you already know which one it is. We'll get to that when we get to it. But other than that, a tremendous show. Just a tremendous show. 3,806 tickets distributed, I believe, according to WrestleTix. This did better business than what was anticipated. And up until the lead up, I should say. I don't know if this is the final count, but not bad for what AEW is doing recently. I'm not saying that this is great, but I'm saying it's not bad. We've seen worse, and there are still worse counts to come. There are still many worse counts to come. Just this week on Dynamite, the go-home show to Wrestle Dream, according to WrestleTix, is still under 2,000 distributed. That's not good, people. But look, I'm not going to talk about this again. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast because I didn't do the MrWarrenHayes show this week. I talked about it on the Collision review this week in regards to attendance. I had my whole attendance spiel here. So, you know, if you want to get into that, there's other places where we can talk about it. I'm not going to reiterate these points here today, but, you know, not a bad house, but we're still very far from a true uptick in business where you're like, okay, this absolutely is fantastic. But this show, though, was absolutely fantastic. Started off real good with the AEW TNT title three-way match where Christian Cage defeated Darby, Allin, and Luchasaurus to actually really become the TNT champion in a really good opener. A really good opener here. Christian Cage, of course, wants to let Luchasaurus do all the work. You know, he hinted at this being a little slip of the tongue on Dynamite, calling this a handicap match. He caught himself, but the damage was done. And so this is what we were, of course, expecting here. But Darby Allin is not having Christian Cage go and sit it out at ringside. He dives all over the place, lands a code red on Christian Cage. A heat segment follows by the heels. And Christian Cage sends off Luchasaurus at some point to get some plunder. And then he tries to cover Darby, who kicks out. And Luchasaurus sort of looks at him from outside the ring. He's like, brother, did you just really do what I thought you just did here? Of course. Christian Cage being a snake, he's like, come on now. Scorpion Death Drop by Darby Allin and a coffin drop to the floor. He also does the flipping stunner back in the ring. Luchasaurus touches the title. It comes into play to get throws into the ring, and he touches the TNT title in his hands for the first time. And the audience is into it. They see this. They understand it. So this story has been connecting. People see they see the through line here. And when Christian Cage comes in to remove it from him, he doesn't quite want to give it up. He's like, no. The belt does come into play with little success. But the end of the match comes when Darby lands a coffin drop on Luchasaurus. Christian Cage then runs in to throw Darby out to the floor, and he covers Luchasaurus to become the champion this time. And Luchasaurus seems a little despondent about this. He doesn't seem very excited about the prospect. Seems a little low. But Christian Cage is truly, really, absolutely right now the TNT champion. He also says, look, not that he says anything. Well, why don't we talk about he has an interview with backstage. He has a celebratory interview. He's dedicating the win to Nick Wayne's mom and Buddy Wayne, who is cheering for him from above. And he thinks he's done with Darby Allin, but instead it gets announced that he's being thrown into a 2 out of 3 falls match for the TNT title at WrestleDream against Darby, which pisses him off. So here's the thing that's going to be really interesting with whatever promos they decide to cut with Christian Cage between now and WrestleDream, is his verbiage is going to change. It's no longer going to be, we are the TNT champion, right? It's going to be, I did it, I am the guy. You already see some ways how this is going to play out. And I think this finally does end with Darby getting the title. And it makes actually a lot more sense for Darby to, it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot more compelling for Darby to get the title off of Christian Cage rather than Luchasaurus, because Christian Cage has been the catalyst. He's been the heel. He's been the bad guy. And this is how he's going to get his comeuppance, by winning the title and a week later losing it to the guy he's been feuding with. I think this is going to be the story they're going to tell. And I think they just planted a little seed of doubt with Luchasaurus so that maybe Luchasaurus will have something to do with Christian losing the title. Maybe he won't want to interfere or something to that effect. But Luchasaurus will have a hand in Christian Cage not winning the title at losing the title, I should say, at WrestleDream. And Christian Cage is one of these guys where he knows when an act has run its course. He doesn't try to stretch things out unnecessarily. And ultimately, like, if this is how they play it out, and we'll talk about this more on the podcast this Tuesday, because I'm going to be previewing WrestleDream amongst other things. We're going to have a busy Tuesday this week if you come to the live recording at 7 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. We're going to talk about this more, but if this is the path they go down with the 2 out of 3 falls, with Darby finally winning the title directly off Christian Cage and not Luchasaurus, this angle will have played out beautifully. What a great pro wrestling angle. There might be, there's still the Nick Wayne thing that might come to a head as well. Like, we're not completely over that as well. Sting will probably, he'll probably be around and whatnot. But as it stands, if Darby does win the title off of Christian Cage, this angle will have been plotted out just beautifully. Just a classic, well done, well executed, with just enough twists and just talented people all around doing great things. Going to be a good, yeah, well, but look, talk about it more on Tuesday. But as it stands, this match, really good opener. Nice and strong opener. Alex Marvez is backstage with Don Callis and two of the members of the Don Callis family, Sammy Guevara and Konosuke Takeshita. Callis is talking about the match being set up for Wrestle Dream with Omega and Jericho being on the same side, and they're name dropping Kota Ibushi. So he name drops Will Ospreay basically, and they're making this into a 6-man tag. So this is interesting to me because I believe you will agree with me on this one because you are the A+ audience to this D-list podcaster here. I believe they were setting up Konosuke Takeshita and Kota Ibushi for Wrestle Dream, right? I can't be the only one who felt that this was the direction we were going because of the reveal, the big reveal of, Konosuke Takeshita being the alpha now, wanting to take away everything that Kenny Omega holds dear, including his close golden lover, Kota Ibushi. And then they do the thing with the painting and the screwdriver. Like, you really felt this is where they were going. And I don't remember on which show I talked about it. I mentioned it, but if this is where they were going, I was a little apprehensive at the idea, just based on the two previous performances of Kota Ibushi. Will he be able to hold a singles match? And this would have been this was gearing up to be the litmus test, the moment where we're like, well, is Kota Ibushi still Kota Ibushi, or has he devolved into something unrecognizable where we're just like, oh, well, the Kota Ibushi we once knew is absolutely gone? Because this is kind of the feeling I have, and a lot of people have. I'm not alone in this. I'm not special here, but the two past performances that Kota Ibushi has had in AEW were very tepid, to say the least. I think I'm being polite. If we get to did we have to pivot from Kota Ibushi having a singles match at Wrestle Dream for whatever reason? Maybe could be just because Kota Ibushi is not the Kota Ibushi we used to know, and instead of having a singles match, we're throwing him into a trios. Or are we just pushing back this match? Are we just pushing back the Konosuke Takeshita Kota Ibushi singles match to later, to a Dynamite, to a bigger event, to the next, to Full Gear? Is that what we're doing? Look, as they say, as Alexa Bliss once told us, let this play out, and we'll see how this goes. But if we do not get a Kota Ibushi singles match in AEW, I think this is indicative that there's something going on that just doesn't quite that is keeping Tony Khan from being secure enough to putting this guy in a one-on-one match. Because you would assume that at this point, look, a one-on-one match at Wrestle Dream, Konosuke Takeshita and Kota Ibushi, is a big-time match. That's a match that wrestling fans want to see. But that's not what we're getting. We're getting a composite. We're getting a 6-man tag instead, a trios match. We're getting something else. So there's something that is preventing Tony Khan from going truly all in on Kota Ibushi in a one-on-one spot. But you can absolutely see this match being set up and then driving more matches, bigger matches maybe for Full Gear, which is entirely possible as well. Again, let's let this play out before we start going crazy here. But, the signs are there at the very least. The signs are there. Then we had the Christian Cage celebratory interview. We talked about that. Next match we had was Hook and Rob Van Dam in his hometown, defeating Angelo Parker and Matt Menard 2.0. This is a fine little match that, of course, was just meant to get RVD in there, allow him to get his spots in, and not needing him to work too hard, right? I mean, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that went into this match, lots of smoke screening. I don't think this was quite as good or as entertaining as his match with Jungle Boy a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite, but it was fine, didn't overstay its welcome. I think Menard and Parker were fantastic in their roles here. And it's an interesting choice because if you want to cover up a little for Rob Van Dam and you're throwing him in with Hook, who Hook is still very green, it's an interesting choice. But I also understand the connection. Like the spirit of ECW lives on through Hook at this point. This is the thing we're doing here. Anyway, the match comes to an end with a 5-star frog splash on Daddy Magic, which gets the win while Hook has the red rum locked into Angelo Parker. And I'm very proud of myself to have said the red rum out the gate and not the Tazmission. Pats on the back to me. I get a gold star. The Dark Order are in a pre-tape doing the old recruitment style gimmick of the Dark Order. And I believe I had my audio wasn't on the whole way, but I believe Evil Uno spoke French. The Kingdom are there. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. They cut a great promo on the Best Friends. I thought this was a tremendous promo. Also talking about the neck strong, how they're being neck strong. And to celebrate Neck Strength Awareness Month, they're going to be delivering pile drivers next week against Trent and Chuck. And they're winning me over on this bullshit. What do you want from me? This was tremendous. Like the promo was very good and was logical, made sense. And then they start talking about the neck strength stuff and how they're going to be dropping pile drivers for neck strength awareness month. I'm like, okay. The Kingdom, man, underrated so far. We're going to talk about tag teams in a second here. Julia Hart defeated Kiera Hogan. So this was supposed to be Julia Hart versus Willow Nightingale. But they had Kiera Hogan step in because apparently Willow got misted by Julia Hart and was sent to a local hospital. I did make note that Nigel said hospital and not local medical facility. But there's no video of it because the House of Black they don't film their shenanigans, which is absolutely fucking false. Because they filmed tossing the boots, the Billy Gunn's boots into the trash compactor. So I call absolute bullshit on that. I don't know what happened exactly to Willow. I don't know why this was sub, but we're getting Willow and Julia Hart on Wednesday. But listen, look, I'm not going to spend much time on this match. This is the fly in the ointment of an otherwise great edition of Collision. This was not good. Julia Hart is not ready. She is not ready. She is so incredibly green. Green. And she has to start showing some stuff at the same time because she is the most, I'm trying to say too many things at once. She feels the most like a rookie out of all the young prospects that they have in the company. Out of Hook, out of Sky Blue, out of Action Andretti. Let's toss in Anna Jay in here. She is the one that feels the most unfinished. Now, she's got a great look. The spooky witch gimmick works. And that's how she's cultivating a fan base for herself. But this was not good. This was not a good match. And now she's challenging Chris Statlander for the TBS title at Wrestle Dream. Hell of a carry job that Chris is going to have to pull off at the pay-per-view, because this is a recipe for a disaster here. This has all the trappings of not being good. And this is throwing Julia Hart into the deep end way too quickly. And this is a problem that AEW has with a lot of its young talent, where it's like they're going to, for 2-3 weeks, they're going to get these matches leading up to a match and then nothing for months. How are they supposed to improve? How are they supposed to get acclimated to working in front of a crowd, a live audience, thousands of people? We're not just talking about, we're not just talking about, the Knights of Columbus venue, in your local town in front of 75 people. We're talking a live crowd, live TV on cable television. What are we doing here? It's a discussion as long as AEW has been around, I feel. And Julia is not going to get any better if they just put her on in bursts like this. She had a burst recently with Anna Jay, then all of a sudden, whoop, then she's gone. There's no follow through, no follow up. I know a lot of people don't really care, didn't really watch Dark or Dark Elevation, but at the very least, you put your people out there, you have them wrestle, you have them get through some reps, short matches, getting in front of crowds, building confidence. I feel Julia Hart, that's what she's missing. She's missing that confidence that you get when you're a well-seasoned pro wrestler. Now, she's going to be in the ring on Wednesday against Willow Nightingale. Willow is a solid worker, great base. Much more solid than Kiera Hogan. Chris Statlander, another solid base wrestler. So, on the flip side, if you never put Julia in matches with these people, with women like Willow, like Chris, then she'll stagnate. She'll stay on the level of whoever she's wrestling. But if you get her into these positions, the problem that we have here is that she's having a pay-per-view match, a championship match, mind you, on pay-per-view, which is a situation she's not ready to be thrown into. Absolutely not ready to be thrown into. And this is not just an AEW thing. The other companies is just as guilty as that as well. I've talked about that many times on the show. But we developed this head canon about these wrestlers. I'm like, no, they're gonna try, they're gonna do their best, and I'm like, why not? Why do, on the flip side, why do we insist in throwing them into situations where they're more than likely just destined to fail? How is that helping them? How is this going to? And look, I might be eating my fucking words come next week. I might be eating my words and sitting here and saying Julia Hart arrived and she tore the house down with Statlander, just an incredible match. I could be. But I feel like the opposite is coming. Why are we setting this woman up to fail? Why are we putting her in a position where her confidence is going to be shaken? Where, let's say, everyone sits down and everyone is reviewing the show and saying, what a tremendous show, top to bottom, except the women's match. How is that going to help Julia Hart's confidence? I know at some point you have to throw them into the deep end, but as a booker, as someone who's putting matches together, you also have to realize that sometimes there is such a thing as being ready or not. And I think this is being unjust. I think we're setting Julia Hart up for failure here. But listen, and mark my words here, I will gladly eat crow next week. If we come back, I'm like, hey, you know what? That was a great match. Statlander, Julia Hart, great match. I'll gladly sit here and eat crow. We get a video of the Righteous talking shit about MJF and Adam Cole because they have their tag match at Wrestle Dream. We still don't know the extent of Adam Cole's injury from this Wednesday on Dynamite when he went to save his brochacho. So, they're still setting up the match. So, here's the thing with the Adam Cole injury, right? It's like, even if he is hurt and he's walking around with a crutch and even if he's not cleared to do the match, there's enough shenaniganry around the brochacho stuff, enough, sports entertainment for them to work this match anyway. Whether it's Max doing a 1-on-2, whether it's Adam Cole, being punked out as they're coming down to the ring. Like because this is the environment that MJF has created around the world title right now in his little microcosm of friendship. So, hopefully Adam Cole is cleared and is healthy, and maybe it was just a silly sprain. Hopefully it's just something like that. Hopefully it's nothing more serious. But if it's something where he's not clear, he'll be fine. They'll find a way for this match to happen regardless. Because it's just goofy enough for them to just pull off anything, is my point. And actually, my point is, don't take this as a signal, a clear signal that Adam Cole is cleared. That's ultimately what I'm saying, because he still could not be. Jay White defeats Andrade El Idolo. This was a very good match, and it delivered big time. Jay White's being super tactical in this match, trying to get under Andrade's skin. Crossbody by Andrade, followed by the Three Amigos, but Jay White interrupts the third one. Lands a DDT for a control segment. Andrade fights back with a moonsault to the floor. Then back in the ring, does the moonsault into the standing moonsault. Uranagi by Jay White, spinning back elbow by Andrade. He figure fours Jay White and into the figure eight, but the Ass Boys get involved. The rest of Bullet Club Gold, of course, were all at ringside, including Cardblade. Juice runs in while the ref is distracted by the Ass Boys with his Collision Cowboys of the Month plaque blasted across Andrade's head, which of course breaks up the hold and allows Jay White to kill him with the Blade Runner. Jay White, super protected, being very sneaky here. Very, very sneaky positioning of Jay White right now. Again, and a big win against Andrade. Andrade this week, when they were hyping up Collision, he had put out on the X. He had quote tweeted the stinger, like the 10-second promo, 15-second promo that they do, where they talk about, and in the promo they promote the TNT title match, which is normal, it's a title match, and the Texas Death match because it's the main event and it's something that they've been building to. And he quote tweets that, he being Andrade, quotes that, because he says more versus more, because at the end, the narrator says, and more. There's more versus more. Like, this guy's never happy. This guy is never happy. He probably felt very, very comfortable with CM Punk around, and he got his little angle, with Buddy Matthews and with the mask and all of that. And don't get me wrong, we got a great ladder match out of it. One of my favorite ladder matches, and y'all know how fed up and tired I am of ladder matches. But this ladder match that they had actually ruled. It was like a match with a ladder in it, if that makes sense. And he had his TV time. Now now he's fighting Scorpio Sky one week, and now he's losing to Jay White. Jay White clearly moving up into another lane. This was a clear definition here. Because I was like, okay, well, these are two stars who have the potential to rise above. Which one are we going for here? Booker calls Jay White. So I'm like, okay, this is clear now. We're positioning Jay White for bigger things in this company. And Andrade is, look, I know a lot of people are very high on Andrade El Idolo and they call him, world championship material, and I'm still not convinced. I think he has a very high ceiling. I don't know if it's world championship. And the guy is always fucking miserable. He was miserable on social media again because they didn't drop his name. They didn't say a thing about his name. They said, and more versus more. He's never happy. And listen, at the same time, I also know, wrestlers are generally unhappy because most of them think that they believe that they belong in the top spots. They're generally always unhappy about the spot they're in. Most of the time. So, because it is a business of the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. Andrade, his displeasure is always very public. So it's only a question of time until he's back to doing, back to teasing stuff about WWE and congratulating Triple H on stuff and bullshit like that. It'll just be a question of time. We've seen it too many times in the past. And then he gets on TV, he does whatever he wants, then 1 fucking week, the guy is not featured front and center. He's got a match with Jay White. It's not mentioned in the 15-second promo where you want to put over your big main event and a TNT title match. 1 week where you have to take a back seat where you're firmly on the mid card and you bitch about it online. Okay. It'll be a question of time before he starts complaining again. And then he can become Triple H's problem then. We get a video by Ortiz now. Got Mike Santana doing video packages over the past couple of weeks, and they've been trading social media barbs, and now Ortiz does a video about how ungrateful Mike Santana is. Okay, let's get to this one sooner than later. We get it. Then we have an AEW World Tag Team title match where FTR successfully retained their titles against the WorkHorsemen. Aussie Open join commentary on this one. Good little wrestling sprint here. I thought this match was tremendous. Under 5 minutes, but just nonstop. Just great stuff. If AEW was serious about getting the tag team division back on track, which was supposed to be an attraction for this company, right? This was supposed to be one of the ways that AEW would differentiate itself. Remember, tag teams were supposed to be able to, main event pay-per-views and be up and down the card, and this would be the place for the greatest tag team wrestling on earth. Remember all of that? Because I sure fucking do. Because for a while, that was true. And while they're getting things slowly back on track, if they were really serious, you have the teams to make the tag team division exciting again. Look, the Lucha Bros are what they are, and they're good in their own right, but we also have to be able to move on from the old standards, right? Always go, the Lucha Bros are back, and besides, at the same time, they've been, when's the last time the Lucha Bros had like this tremendous outing, this great run? It's been a while, even while they were Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions just this year. Nothing memorable came out of it. Nothing there to remind you how great they are. I thought the Young Bucks were going to win the titles off of FTR at Wembley and we were going to enter this new era, right? Clearly not. But now we have teams. Look, you've got the Kingdom who are doing tremendous work, both in ring and outside. You've got the WorkHorsemen here who have always been great, by the way. But look at what they did here with a great team like FTR. They're not only able to hold their own, but really have a toe-to-toe one. Go right in a sprint of a match where they look fucking good. So it's not as if the elements are not there for AEW to turn around and say, let's focus on the tag team division and rebuild it. Make it into something exciting like it once was, because the talent, the elements are all there. I think we started to slip when the Acclaim became world champions. there was the whole thing with the guns and all of that, and it's like, okay, things don't feel as juicy in the tag team division anymore. And I'd love the tag team division to get back to the juicy state. And they have the teams. They have the teams hanging around to do it. Gates of Agony? What are we talking about here? Like, all the elements are there for a fucking fantastic tag team division. Anyway, great match. FTR were fantastic here as usual. And like I said, look, I can't put this over enough, but Anthony Henry and JD Drake, they shined big time for such a short match. It's tremendous stuff. You know, when I often talk about, I wish there were more squash matches. Don't get me wrong, this was not a squash match by any, let's say, enhancement matches. And I said there should be more of those on TV. There should be more of those where you have teams, your champions, the people that you're pushing, they should be on here having more enhancement matches. They don't have to be very long, but this is a prime example of one. Under 5 minutes, just a tremendous sprint. They don't have to be slogs. They don't have to be these long control periods. Just go and fucking wrestle. This is a great example of what I mean. Again, not a squash match, an enhancement match, another notch to the belt of FTR. This was great. After the match, Aussie Open confront FTR. They're having a match at Wrestle Dream. Of course, both teams acknowledge. This is what was weird. They both acknowledged here that Aussie Open hasn't lived up to the hype, right? And isn't that a little weird? Because they both say, Aussie Open admit it. They say, oh, maybe we haven't lived up to the hype. Sure. Dax even says, they were sacrificial lambs to the brochachos. We're outright pooping on the booking of Aussie Open, which I am in complete agreement with. We've talked about it in the past on this very within the confines of this very establishment. We've talked about it, how nothing that they've been doing has been impressive. And if you had never heard of Aussie Open and you heard all the hype, you'd be like, well, who are these jokers? Now we're trying to build this big match when for the AEW audience, who may not necessarily be familiar with the Aussie Open, don't necessarily believe that these guys are a top tag team because they've been losing. They haven't been doing anything. They're treated like sacrificial lambs. I agree with Dax here. So we're outright just burying the booking. What are we doing? I think they're not wrong, but what are we doing? CJ is backstage with Lexi Nair. She's talking. Miro shows up. Miro doesn't want her around. And she's like, okay, just don't lay a hand. If you go down your path, I'll go down mine. Just don't lay a hand on my clients when I start managing them. And he doesn't promise anything. So I'm glad this was a story bump. We're able to move forward here. We're not going to, we're calling her CJ, not hot and flexible anymore. We're calling her, and she's going to be a manager. That's what she wants to do. She wants to manage her clients. And the specter of Miro might still be around, but that might have some resolution down the road. But CJ is going to be in AEW to be a manager. So we'll see how that shakes out. But at least we're getting some evolution in this Miro CJ tale. And in the main event, Texas Death Match, Bryan Danielson defeated Ricky Starks. Tremendous main event. With more absolutely fantastic, gritty work from both these guys. With Ricky Starks going after this one fast out the gate. Danielson dives and then spills. It all spills into the arena. They fight within the people. The people. Back around the ring, there's a tremendous dive by Ricky Starks from the top rope right into the first row. Just great shit. Danielson gets a surfboard in. Starks brains Danielson with the ring bell. That gets him to run the blade. We get some great shots from both these guys. They're just laying into each other again. Ricky Starks then pulls out the strap that they used at All Out, choking Danielson. A chain comes into play that ends up having Ricky Starks bleeding, and it kind of looks hard way too. Doesn't look like this was purposeful. Spear by Ricky Starks, and he then uses the chain to choke out Danielson, not unlike what Danielson did to him at All Out. But Danielson he reverses out of it, and he goes for the All Out finish with the label lock using the chain, but Starks fights out of it this time. Danielson kicks his head in. Starks spits at him, more kicks. Danielson wraps the chain around his knee for a knockout Busaiku knee. Ricky Starks can't make the 10 count. Danielson wins. And after the match, Big Bill and Wheeler Utah come out to check on their guys. Tremendous, just fantastic, great, gritty, emotional, dramatic, just great stuff. The tradition of the Texas Death Match is alive and well in AEW. This ruled. This absolutely ruled. And I think there might be some people who are upset that Ricky Starks didn't win here. Then again, Bryan Danielson has a big match coming up next week. Don't necessarily want Danielson to lose a match going into a pay-per-view. That's just basic stuff. They've got nothing for Ricky Starks on the pay-per-view, which, don't get me wrong, is a little weird, kind of a crime. But I think Ricky Starks is going to be okay. He's going to be A-okay because these losses don't make him look like a chump. He's not losing like a chump. He's losing these matches in tremendous, memorable fashion, making him look like a bigger superstar than he is. Is it indicative of his booking, where it's like, I always shudder and shrug when I see people talk about burials, because if this was a burial, Ricky Starks would not have put in the offense he did in this match. I beg you to watch true wrestling burials, because this was not it. Begging you. Ricky Starks still has gas, still has potential. Sure, it's a little strange, but look, you can't win them all. And Danielson, well, he's going into a big match. He's clearly being positioned as one of the top stars on Collision. And Collision's been doing well in the ratings on TV. So continue down that path. Keep pushing the guy. And that's what a push looks like, folks. Sometimes guys got to win multiple matches. I much prefer this to doing some 50-50 bullshit. Look, Danielson won both matches. What do you want from me? He's a fucking legend regardless. And I'm okay with Ricky Starks putting this on the back burner, maybe, I'm just saying, and revisiting this in a couple of months, and then beating the shit out of Danielson decisively, getting his own win back. Maybe Ricky is just not ready for Bryan Danielson, which is possible. But look, Danielson loves Ricky Starks. He said it himself at the All Out presser. So this is not a burial. They're not trying to get rid of the guy. And Danielson's, his hands are, he is, let me put it another way. He is elbows deep into creative in this company. So Ricky Starks is going to be fine. Just see how this moves up. This moves on. Maybe this feud has, wrapped up for now, but this can be revisited at any given moment. And I like the idea of Ricky Starks coming back, going, you know what? I got to shake this off my back. I gotta get back into the ring with Danielson and prove that I can do this. Anyway, tremendous Collision. Tremendous. Fantastic stuff from top to bottom. Well, almost top to bottom, but there's too many good things, too many positives to focus on anything else. And it bears repeating because this was a tremendous worry, but we have not lost our way when it comes to Collision. It is an absolutely different wrestling offer from AEW than Dynamite. It feels different. It's handled differently. And it's doing good. Even without Phil Brooks. Go figure. We're going to leave it at that for now. Thank you everyone for listening, watching. One more pitch for a like or a subscription here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or why not both? And a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Thank you all so much. I will be back this week on Tuesday for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. We're going to have a lot to talk about. So be there or be square. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you next time.